I didn't know that everything I was witnessing was my own death. Because how could it be me? Me was up here. I was watching everything from above. And the weirdest part is the medic who was sitting there staring at this body, he finally gets this feeling that this one's not dead.
Today we're talking with Vincent Tolman, NDE experiencer extraordinaire. Vincent, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. I love doing this.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that because I am really excited about hearing your story. You have so much to share. So tell us what was going on in your life before the whole thing started.
Before my experience, my near-death experience or after-death experience, I was a bodybuilder. I was working in construction. I was also moonlighting in TV and film. In between projects, I was always building things, though. So, I primarily had grown up in the construction industry. I had adopted it myself, not that my family did it, but I had adopted it at an early age and really worked my way through there. And that was the kind of my life, bodybuilding, doing things on the weekends or looking forward to the next movie project or the next TV project I was working on. So that was my life back then, and then slammed against a wall and died.
Can you give us a little details of how the slamming went?
So I was taking a supplement, a brand new supplement. It was really popular, and so you couldn't find this supplement anywhere. And a buddy of mine and we bought some from a company in Thailand. It took quite a while for it to arrive. Once it arrived, we told ourselves, hey, well, since this is a new brand, we want to make sure we know how our body's tolerance is with it, so we'll take it on the weekend. We waited until Saturday. We went ahead and took our normal liquid bottle cap dose. But what we didn't realize is this stuff from Thailand, it was a concentrated formula and not the regular supplement we were used to. So that little liquid bottle cap was about 20 times the dose we were used to taking. And that was just way too much for the body. Both of us felt instantly ill, and we knew we needed to go get some food in us so that we could kind of ride this out and feel better. We went down to a local Dairy Queen, and it was only a couple of blocks from where he lived. So we went down there. We made it into the driveway, the parking lot, and just about barely made it there. I was shaking him awake. He was starting to go unconscious while he was driving. Sure enough, as soon as we get there, I put the car in park for him, and I went into the restaurant and went straight to the bathroom. And the restrooms there, they are single use, so I went in and just locked the door. While I was in there, the whole world started to spin on me, and I passed out, and then followed shortly after passing out, I started to vomit, and I breathed in my own vomit. So technically, I aspirated or I suffocated, and that's what ended up killing me. My buddy, meanwhile, he went in and collapsed on a booth, and he was fine. He ended up getting hauled away in an ambulance. They pumped his stomach, they treated him, and he ended up being just fine. He got released the very next day out of the hospital. But meanwhile, I'm in that bathroom, and I'm lying dead on the floor. About 45 minutes after it happened, a manager of the restaurant opened up the bathroom to discover that there was a dead body on the floor. Yeah, so that's essentially what happened. That's how I died.
How long was your body physically dead before you were discovered?
So before discovery, they can't give an exact, but they can essentially go off of the general temperature of the body. They feel that the body was probably in the low 70-degree range, and there is a recorded temperature on one of the papers, but they don't know if that's an exact or not. But when they take a look at my case and they look at all the data, the most conservative estimate is about 28 minutes prior to discovery. The most liberal estimate is almost an hour before discovery. So,
Yeah.
but if you actually cart the time from call to call, from the first 911 call to the second 911 call, it's 47 minutes. So they know there's a good chunk of time in between there. And because the body, when it was discovered, it was cool to the touch, they knew that there was some time there for sure, that the body had been dead before it was discovered. And on top of that, it took a little over 40 minutes to process the scene once the medics did get there. And so from the time of discovering the body, the actual time recorded of discovery of the body, to the time of resuscitation, where they were actually able to bring the body back, was almost on the dot, another 47 minutes. So we've got two 47-minute windows possible there. And yeah, it's crazy. And since this has happened to me, I met a man that was resuscitated or did resuscitate while he was in his autopsy 3 days after his death. So it's not the most extreme case, but it is on the more extreme side of things for sure.
I would imagine your experience has changed the mind of a few doctors.
Absolutely. And not just that, in talking to some doctors about what I witnessed and what I observed, they know for a fact that I had to have observed that from on scene. That's something I couldn't have even watched a movie or thought about or just imagined and known some of the procedures that they did for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So your body is no longer responsive. There's a team that shows up. Tell us what happens after that.
So my buddy's medical team was just two medics. My team was a 3-medic team, and the third man out was a rookie. It was his first week on the job, outside of training. So he was still shadowing the other veteran medics. His job was to do kind of the grunt stuff. And one of his jobs was to babysit the body. So wherever the body went, he was supposed to go, just so that it was secure, that nobody was messing with it. So after it was bagged, they did bag the body. They put it in the back of an ambulance. And while it was in the back of the ambulance, he was just sitting there staring at it and having all sorts of kind of doubting thoughts of why am I doing this job if I can't make a difference for this guy? He just felt, probably like a lot of rookies do, he felt like those veterans kind of gave up too soon. He wanted to keep fighting and keep working to try to save this guy's body. Yeah.
I noticed that you refer to it as the body.
Yeah, I have to, because to me, it's not my body. My body was, and here's what's weird, is my body was not in that body, because who I was, and I felt like I still had a body, but not a physical body. I felt like I had an energetic body. And it's almost like we do have a real energetic body that we carry with our consciousness. And so I was witnessing, I could look down at my hands, I could look at my feet. That's why I didn't know it was me. And that's kind of the weird thing. I didn't know that everything I was witnessing was my own death, because how could it be me? Me was up here. And I was watching everything from above. And the weirdest part is, I felt like I was sitting in a very comfortable movie chair, kind of like in a very nice opera or a very nice theater. I felt like I was sitting in a very plush, comfortable chair, watching all of this happen from above. And up until they actually got the body, and kind of following the story here of the experience, the medic who was sitting there staring at this body, he finally gets this feeling that this one's not dead. And as he follows that prompting, he unzips the body bag, he starts feeling around. He doesn't feel any preliminary signs of life, but he does feel something down near the femur. So down near the femur of the leg, there is a big artery there. He didn't know if it was a heartbeat or if it was like some type of electrical spark or shock that he felt, but he felt something. And to him, that was enough. He wanted to go ahead and try to resuscitate this body. And he began that process. He got oxygen forced into the lungs. He hooked the body up to a defib machine, and this machine shocks the heart. And on the first round of shocks, there was nothing. Second round of shocks, he got a single heartbeat. But the third round of shocks, he got a steady heartbeat to come. And at that point, the other two medics were ecstatic and so invigorated by all this they pulled right into a hospital. When the heart started, they were a few hundred feet from a hospital. So they were able to pull directly into a hospital, a trauma center, where they were able to start working on the body and bringing all the systems back. Because what people don't realize is when you just getting the heart started is not just it. There's quite a bit of a battle when someone's been dead that long to bring the other systems forward. And so they had to begin that process of trying to bring all the other systems back. And meanwhile, I did recognize that it was my body as they were transferring it from the medical gurney onto the hospital gurney. I had this reckoning that what I was watching was my body. And at that point, I had this whole experience. That's where my experience begins, is right there. I went from being this participant or this viewer of some weird movie to now this participant in an alternate existence that I didn't know existed. And I was the one in the captain's seat. I got to choose where I went from there. And it was quite an experience. I got to see this man that was just flooding me with unconditional love. I was raised in a good home, but an abusive home. And there's no question with that. All of my siblings would agree. There were some real rough times. We had some amazing times, but we had really rough times as well. And those rough times had put some rips and some tears in my soul. And this unconditional love that was just freely being given to me was just filling up all these gaps and these tears in me. And I knew I wanted more of that. So as I saw that coming from him, I asked him, I was like, who are you? What are you? I was, number one, I thought he was God. And that was my first thought is, oh, you're God. And he kind of laughed and shrugged it off. And he's like, no, son, I'm not God. And I followed up with the Christian follow-up. Well, this is weird, but if you're not God, are you Jesus then? Is that some kind of different version of what God is? And he kind of laughed and shrugged that off as well and said, no, I'm not Jesus. My name is Drake, and I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to take you wherever you want to go. And just the amount of love that he just poured over me, it's bigger than words. It really is. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to write my story, is because how do I get that into words?
Yeah.
The amount of love that he was just pouring over me.
What I want to ask you is, if someone had talked to you about that type of love prior to experiencing it, would you have been able to have felt it, imagined it, experienced it?
No.
Is there any context here in this plane
No.
of that?
The closest thing I can tell you, I'm a proud and happy father, who I'm married to my soulmate, my twin flame. And I can tell you, of all the huge blessings God's given me, it's still nothing compared to that love. Still nothing. It's just nothing. Take all the greatest moments of my life, and that's not even an eyelash to the sequoia forest of what love of God has for us. I mean, there's just, what we get here is such a little version of what's there for us. And what's there for us is for all of us, not for what we want to be or what we could be, just for us, for us being us, with all of our imperfections and our insecurities and weaknesses and strengths. It's there for all of us. And I could feel just the unworthy feeling of it. Like I couldn't be, there's no way to be worthy of this love. And it didn't matter. It didn't dampen it at all. And in fact, the only way to not get it is to block it myself. And so for someone to cross over, or to begin the process of crossing over, if they're feeling some type of hell or feeling some type of hard part of that crossing over, it's because they're blocking that love. It's not because it's not there. It's there for everyone. And the only way not to feel it is to have fear, to block it. That's it. So yeah, I began my process, my journey with him.
So you're in this space, you're met with Drake. Is there any sense of emotional connection to the body that you're seeing?
Yes, the emotional connection is pain.
Physical pain or emotional pain?
Emotional pain. So what had happened is, as I met Drake and he showed me, he said that, I'm your guide. I can help you go wherever you want to go in the universe. And me being me, I was like, anywhere in the universe? He's like, anywhere. And I was like thinking of all these like sci-fi and all these places I was thinking I wanted to go. But then instantly I kept thinking of that love that I was feeling. And I'm like, I want to go where that is. Whatever this is that you're just freely giving to me, I want to go wherever that's coming from, because I know it's not coming just from you, that he was bringing it or kind of channeling it to me from a source, from the source. And I said, I want to go there. And he even motioned. He's like, well, I could take you back to your body. And he like pointed back to the body. I looked back there, and all I could feel is just like turmoil and anguish and sadness, because I knew that wasn't me now. What I knew that was a version of me, a almost like a shadow of me, but me was up here, and I was like alive, and I was this vibrant, like pulsating electricity and love and energy that I didn't know that I was. And I knew that if I went back there, I'd downgrade myself. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to continue this path of upgrading. I wanted to go towards this love energy that I was feeling, just so I could see more of it and see where it came from and just understand it better. Because in my life, I hadn't experienced that love ever. Not even to the smallest shadow did I experience that love in my life so far. And since then, I'll tell you, I have gotten small glimpses of that love. But, like fatherhood, when you hold that baby for the first time, or for some of us, they don't have that first connection with their child. Later, when they have that first connection with the child, that love you have for them, that's a little glimmer, a little tiny glimmer of what the love there is for all of us. Yeah, so I began that process. I said, let's go. I want to go wherever this love is coming from. And Drake explained, he said, well, that's coming from your home. That's where you originally came from. And I'll take you there. We'll go to your home. And he explained it was his home as well. So he was going to help me get to my home, to our home, his home and my home. So we began this journey. One of the first things he showed me is it wasn't going to just be a journey of distance. It was going to be a journey of understanding, that I would have to expand my understanding and raise my level of love and understanding love to be able to get to heaven, because it's at a higher place. And what's weird is it's here. It's actually here. But to get there, you have to go a distance. Even though we would still be here, we still have to go a vast distance of energy to get there, because there is such a vastly higher vibrational state, or frequency state than we have here. And so we began that process. I thought, well, I was raised Christian. I know what the ladder of God is going to be. It's going to be love, right? I've got to climb the ladder of love to go to God. And Drake kind of smirked in a loving way and said that he loved that I thought I knew. He's like, I love that you think you know, but actually the most important thing isn't love. The most important thing is authenticity.
Oh,
And
okay.
that I couldn't understand love or actually use love or receive love if I couldn't be authentic. And so for those of us that are trying to figure out our authenticity and figure out who we are, when we find who we really are, that is someone who can receive love, and that is someone who can also give love. But if we can't find who we really are, who we authentically are, we can't give or receive any love whatsoever. So that was step number one. I had to really embody or figure out how to embody my own authenticity. And he helped me see that I had a lot of different versions of me that I showed the world. That I had, I had worked as a movie producer, I'd worked as TV producer, I'd worked in construction and computers and technology. I'd done a lot of different jobs and been very successful in every one of those careers. And so I had a different face. I had a different persona that I would put on for each one of those jobs and each one of those groups of friends that I had from each job, each career. And then I had a different face, a different persona that I would put on to go to church for church activities, for church events, and to go to communion and have my religious services. And then there was a whole nother persona that I would put on to go see mom and dad and go see family events. So I had lots of different personalities and lots of different personas But what happened is I didn't realize I was putting on all these different personas out of self-protection, of not
Hmm.
allowing myself to be vulnerable. And Drake showed me that until I could be vulnerable, I actually couldn't grow. So everywhere that I wasn't allowing myself to be vulnerable, I wasn't allowing myself to grow or receive growth.
So
You
how
know,
is he showing you this? Was it pictures? Was it an internal experience? How were you learning the lessons to move up that ladder?
so he had total control out of guidance. So he had total guidance control over my consciousness. And as we would think about things, he would move my consciousness in and out of imagery. And it didn't feel like he was showing me pictures. It felt like he was giving me experiences of pictures. So when I saw the different personalities or personas that I had, he was showing me almost energetically how I would put on a mask, go be with these friends, take that mask off, put on another mask, and go be with these friends. And then it would be time to go see mom and dad. And I'd put away all those masks and pull out of the hard case the mom and dad mask, right? And I would go be with mom and dad. And it's weird because he showed me that I wasn't physically doing that, but energetically I definitely was.
Hmm.
And it did look like I was putting on masks. Now it didn't look like I was walking around doing that myself, but I was watching a part of me, almost like a fear part of me, going around scrambling to put on these blocks, these shields to prevent vulnerability. And that's when I realized that vulnerability is vital for growth. If you can't have vulnerability, you can't have growth. That was a big principle for me, and I still carry that with me today. That when I can find a vulnerable moment, I'm finding a moment where I can grow, legitimately grow.
So how did the climbing the ladder go?
So it's funny. I
Was it
thought it was the latter.
challenging? Was it
Yeah,
enlightening?
it was challenging and enlightening both. I
Hmm.
thought it was the ladder of love, and it was and is, but it's also the metaphorical Jacob's ladder
Okay.
that essentially our creator has built so that we do have a pathway, we have a way of getting back home. And I did climb it took me quite a few steps. I thought that being raised a Christian kid and a dedicated one, I had my kind of my stints with sin and wildlife, but I had just recently started to come back to the Lord, come back to Jesus himself in my path and in my theology and in my living. But it was at that point of coming back and being back in the gospel in the church for a while that when this happened. And I had a lot of learning to do, a lot of learning to do. So I began this process. I had some big steps to take. One of the biggest steps was to know why we're here on earth. And it was shown to me that earth is a school, and that's always what it's been. It's not a courtroom. It's always been a classroom. We come here to learn, to grow, to get what we can out of the classroom, and then we move on. We go back to our home, and in our home we kind of take what we learned here and we're able to expand on it and expound on it so that we can take what the progress we got here and continue the growth in other ways. But it was very interesting to me because I did think life was a courtroom. I thought we were here to be judged as worthy or not worthy, as a keeper or throwaway, as if God would throw away most of us because we weren't worthy of that love. And that was a big one. And I'm so glad that I saw that one because to me, that's foundational to what God's real love is for us. A perfect example of that is my own fatherhood. I have
Hmm.
two kids, two amazing kids. I have a little 3-year-old named William, and he is just full of the whole universe, full of energy. You got to keep your eyes on this guy. He'll climb anything if you're not paying attention. And then I have an amazing 14-year-old named Emma. And between the two of them, if you were to ask me, how much imperfection would you need to see before you threw away your child? And I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I could see 100% imperfection or 100% sin in that child, and I still would never throw away that child ever. I will love that child. I will do everything I can to help them in the best way possible that I know how for my entire span of energy of existence. And I say energy of existence because I know that we live forever. I know that we
Yeah.
do. So even after this life, I'm going to continue to love that child and do whatever I can for them. And it's funny because a lot of our religions would tell us that God is up there loving us and throwing away 90% of us. That's not love. If love of a human is a shadow of the love of God, then God's true love for us is to have a plan for all of us, including the quote unquote sinners or the ones who are wayward or not following God's path. There is a plan for all of us. There's no garbage cans in heaven. There's no place that God just tosses the souls. If there is a hell, the hell I experienced is here on earth. Also, it's a hell that we could put ourselves in our consciousness, in our mind, and that does exist. And most of the time, when you hear someone talking about any type of hell in their near-death experience, that's a consciousness thing. And what's really neat, though, there's 100% instance that when someone feels some type of hell, they yearn for deity or they call for deity, even if they're atheist, and then instantly they are pulled out of that hell. And again, any hell that's there is a consciousness thing, not a physical thing. It's not a place that God, it's not a garbage can of flame and brimstone that God tosses souls. It exists in us, our consciousness only. So I began that process, went and climbed that ladder of love, that Jacob's ladder, and learned that earth is a classroom, not a courtroom, and that loving everyone is foundational to why we're here. We're here to learn how to love. We're here to learn, number one, how to love ourselves. That's the
Yeah.
hardest one. It's really, really hard to truly love yourself. It's easy to give lip service to that, but to actually do it is a big deal. And to truly love yourself, that allows you to love others. And if you can't love yourself, you can never love others, not truly. But yeah, that was the beginning of my journey. I got to go up this Jacob's ladder per se and
If
learn
that's the
some.
beginning,
Yeah, that's the beginning.
that's an entire
Yeah.
life's lesson right there. So what happened next?
So as I'm going on this journey, Drake is showing me all these principles. We're making legitimate progress through all of these principles, through all these things that I'm learning. And as we make it towards the end of all this learning, I could actually see this space, this expanse of a place, and we were getting closer and closer and closer. We made it all the way to this place. I got to actually touch down my energetic feet. It felt like physical feet, but we are a physical being of energy there. So I didn't necessarily have a body, but I did have an energetic body. And I touched down, I could feel my feet touching the grass in this heaven place. And it felt like I was always meant to be there. It felt like I found the place that I've always been missing, that when you have spiritual experiences, even physical highs, chemical highs, all these events that create endorphins in your chemistry, that all happened as soon as I plugged into heaven. As soon as I plugged in there, I could feel the tremendous amount of love that every blade of grass there had for me. And then I realized it's just for all of us, that this heaven is so full of love that even the grass loves you there. And I could feel every blade of grass had a consciousness. And if you gathered those consciousnesses together, you were starting to get a small glimpse of what God is. And that grass was making me, energetically weep. You don't really cry there, but you do cry. I felt like I was crying, and I could feel the grass just again loving me more than I had ever been loved or ever could be loved. And as it was doing all this healing on me, then Drake said, well, if you think the grass is great, check out the flowers. And I was like, there's flowers. And
It
so
gets better.
it did. It just got better. And all of a sudden I was experiencing flowers. And here's the coolest part. Drake was helping me see and experience flowers as if I was like a little beetle or a butterfly, where I could actually be so close to the flower and experiencing as if I crawled into the flower itself through the petals. And then I was able to zoom back and actually feel the flowing love and the radiating love coming off those flowers. And this is what's weird there is there's a lot more than three or four or five senses there. We are sensual there, so that we can sense things in so many different ways. And I could actually taste the grass just by being near it. I could taste the flowers. It had a sweetness that just being there and being near it, you could experience it as taste. You could smell, but smell there again is more tasting as well as smelling. And then not just that, you could see like these vibratory rainbows of light just constantly vibrating or emitting off of the flowers and the grass. And the colors themselves, this is the weirdest part, is the color was coming from inside the item. So like the flower itself, the flower petal, light was coming from in it, not reflecting off of it, but coming from in it. So, everything there is source light. Here on Earth, we have a sun and it shines its light down onto things, and that light gets reflected, and that's what makes us see things. Well, there's no outside sun. Everything is an inside sun. Like everything is source light. So everything has a light coming from it. And then I'm just freaking out about flowers and how amazing these are. And that's when Drake was like, well, you should check out the trees. And then I was like, trees, and it was this whole nother level. And I could feel the cohesiveness of flowers and the cohesiveness of of grass. But when it came to trees, there was just this flowing hive connection between all the trees. The way we perceive trees as very, steadfast and strong, but the way trees perceive themselves is as flowing and almost like they feel like they're walking. It's really beautiful. I got to feel the tremendous amount of love from these trees. And then out of nowhere, I feel this kind of energetic tap down on my toe. And I look down and I see water. And water has come from this little stream that was there that I kind of had seen but not known what it was. This little stream, a piece of the water had come out and had come to my toe and asked, "Do you want us on you?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And so the water came and washed up over me. It didn't get me wet, even to the littlest bit. But as it came over me, it was cooling and warming at the same time. And the most beautiful part of this water is it had everything that the soul needed. Everything. Every bit of stitching and repair that I needed in my soul, it happened in that water. And it gave a totally different meaning to baptism, what we call baptism on earth, and what we're mimicking when we do a baptism on earth, the washing away, the cleansing, the renewing. And I saw that the whole reason we do that is to mimic what really happens in heaven with water, and how I was a different energetic spiritual being after that water than I was before the water. Before the water, I still had some cracks and some shadows in me. I had to abandon all victimhood just to get into heaven, but I still had some damage that was showing up on me. That water, it went into every little crook and cranny. It healed every little aspect of my atomic soul, my cellular level soul. It made me a different being. I became a different being energetically than I was before the water.
Can you describe, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, I'm sure all of this is just etched in your memory.
There's no forgetting it.
There's no
for,
forgetting it.
for good or for bad, there's no
Yeah.
forgetting it.
So you had you had an energy body, which is probably still felt physical in a different way.
It did feel physical, yeah.
Yeah. How did it feel as that stitching, that healing was going on?
I didn't think I needed it, actually. I didn't even notice that I needed it. But as it was being done to me, I was like, oh yeah, that's better. Oh yeah, that's even, and it's almost like I had experienced such a better existence just by crossing over. And then just getting to heaven, I was experiencing a better existence. And then meeting the grass, I was having a better existence. Meeting the flowers, the trees, better existence all the way up. And then as the water, I'm meeting it, I'm like, oh, this is pinnacle. This is as good as it gets. And that's where I could feel the flow of God's love for us. And that's what water represented there, is this all-encompassing flow this all encapsulating flow of love that God has for all of us. That anything that we're going to eventually need, it will be fulfilled. It will be, fulfilled. It will be filled by God's love for us, our source creator. And also, to even call God God is to downgrade what God is. To even use a human word is to completely downgrade what source is. To even say Heavenly Father or Heavenly Mother or God or Goddess is to completely downgrade what God is. God is so much more than what we could ever understand here. And it's like taking someone from a tribe in New Guinea and explaining astrophysics. They're not going to understand it. And it's the same thing. We cannot understand the tremendous force of love energy that our creator is. Yeah, we can't understand it.
Yeah. And I can appreciate that. It's almost as though speaking with you is like this delicious little glimpse into
Yeah.
what our true reality is.
I joke around. I'm part of a big group of experiencers. We're all part of the IANDS organization, which is, IANDS. It's the International Association of Near-Death Studies. This group is really an amazing group, and there's a lot of us over there. And I joke around with them that God needed a PR campaign, so he got a bunch of us to cross over and come back, so that he could have a real PR campaign, because these religions are getting it so wrong. They're so influenced by fear and power and manipulation and money that and it doesn't matter which direction you go on the compass, you're going to find a religion that's influenced by these worldly energies. And that's when you realize that that's one of the reasons why you have so many near-death experiencers coming out now, more than ever before. Every single year, there's more and more and more people having these experiences. And we can also thank science for that too, because science is getting better and better and better at reviving someone who has been dead or is dead. So yeah, all around, it's a huge blessing that there's so many of us now, so that we can be the PR campaign for God.
I look at you as the cavalry.
There we go. Yeah, I feel that. I truly feel that we're part of an army of light that's being sent to the earth right now at this time. I feel that with every fiber of my being, of who I am. Yep.
I completely agree. So you've had the healing with the water. What happens after that?
So as the water recedes off of me, I'm in this like liquid love state. I'm a puddle of love for God, a puddle of love for Drake, for facilitating and helping me through all of this. And I'm feeling just this tremendous force of love. And that's when I noticed there was a building, like it looked like a human-made building off in the distance. But as soon as I had that thought, like, wow, that looks like it's made by man, then I zoomed in and I could see that this whole building was one piece of marble, the entire thing, and it was alive. The walls were alive. The building was alive. That as someone would approach a room that they wanted to enter, they would have to match the love energy of that room. And if they did, an opening formed, they went in, and then it completely sealed itself. So the doorways that were there were more energetic or magical to me than they were, an actual hinged door where you would swing it open. It was such an amazing place. The walls themselves were semi-opaque, like you could almost see through them because of this marble. And the marble itself had light, and it had life in it. It had a consciousness in it. The building itself had consciousness. And I was experiencing all this and trying to figure out what this was. I was allowed to know it was some type of school, and it was a school that we could learn the true story, not his story or history or her story or her story. We could learn the real story and the true story. And that's what, that's a fundamental part of heaven, is we get to know eternal truths that can't be manipulated, can't be messed around with, absolute truths. And so I'm witnessing this. I'm getting very excited about it, thinking, ooh, I want to go there. I want to go learn there. There's so much, I am a very inquisitive person, and I have I would say, a fairly strong mind, and I wanted to go there so bad. And as soon as I had that thought, Drake like drew my consciousness back away from the building, and he said, "Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it." And as he said that, he like brought me in for this hug, and I thought the water was good, but with this hug, he brought his being close to my being, and then we became one being. And as we became one being, I got to see what God is. I got to feel what God is. I got to feel, it almost felt like we became a pulsar, or a huge pulse to the universe of force and love. I got to feel that when we come together in actual real love, that we are 1,000 times stronger than by ourselves. I could feel that even just the two of us, we were 8 or 10 times more bright and powerful than we could have ever been on our own. And as he was like sending me this loving force energy, I all of a sudden heard this prayer being given to my body. Now, fast forward, I'd been brain dead for 3 days at this point. They had brought the body back, but the brain was not back. I was still brain dead. I was in a coma, and I was in my 3rd night of the coma. And that 3rd night had just started. My brother had gone into the hospital room and had given a special prayer over my body. And my brother, me and him were frenemies. We were best friends, but also enemies because we were so close in age. And we had the rough upbringing that we had. I didn't know that he had so much love for me. And not just that, he was channeling the love that he had for his mom, my mom, and he knew it would devastate her if I was dead. And he was he was using the love that I have for my mom, the love he had for mom, to force me back. And he did. It was almost like I had a higher acceptance. I felt like my free agency was removed. In contemplation, I've realized that it wasn't fully removed. There was a part of me that was okay coming back, even though it was the worst thing I ever did to come back. It was also the best thing I ever did. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but the best thing I ever did was to come back. I woke up. My brother had given me this prayer over my body at about 10 p.m., right around there. And then I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. And that was the time that all of my machines stopped working, because as soon as I woke up, I yanked off everything. I was on, full life support. And, if you look at the back cover of my book, we have some of the pictures from me when I was on life support, and you can see all the equipment that's there. I unplugged everything. I yanked everything off me. I couldn't even have clothing touch me. I just stood there for a moment, standing in my hospital room, naked, just feeling like I needed to get back. And the weird thing is, for a moment, for the next 24 hours, I didn't know what I needed to get back to. I didn't have the memory of where I'd just been for 24 hours. 24 hours later, it all just boom, landed right back in me. Then I thought I was crazy for a while. I had a neurologist tell me, as he was trying to not check me out of the hospital, he was telling me to be very careful about any he called it memories that my brain was going to create, that it would just create memories out of my imagination. And then I needed to be very leery and very careful of this. And so after I woke up and 24 hours later, I remembered everything, I did think, well, maybe this neurologist is right. Maybe this is going on. But I had some amazing, amazing, life-changing confirmations, including the best one to me is 7 months after my experience. I'm in Wyoming. I'm in this little town. They're showing me a presentation on the history of the town. And up comes a picture of Drake, my guide, like right in front of me. And it was on this big screen. And I saw, but the confusing part for me is it didn't say his name is Drake. It said his name is Charles. And it said his last name was Kazare. And I knew my grandmother was a Kazare.
Right.
So I went directly to my grandmother, and I'm like, Grandma, tell me about Charles Kazare. I need to know about this Charles Kazare. And her exact response was, "Oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous in our family."
I'm covered in goosebumps.
And that's when I realized that I wasn't crazy. that
Yeah.
this quote unquote delusion that I had for the whole 3 days that I was in heaven was an actual man. And not only was it a man, it was my great 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 grandfather on my grandmother's side.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was known as Drake. That was his middle name to all of his friends and his family. But he worked in Wyoming state government. He worked in a lot of clerical and church positions with the local church and parish. And so in those positions, he went by Charles. So he could know if you were part of his church work or part of his government work. But if you called him
Okay.
Drake, he knew you were family or friends, you know. So
Hmm.
it was neat to even to the name. I couldn't have even known the name because it didn't even have his middle name published anywhere besides historical record of who he officially was. So
Hmm.
there's just so many factors of belief that I would have to be absolutely ignorant and try to be provably ignorant to
Yeah.
try to even believe that my imagination could have made any of this up. Yeah. So that was
So
my best confirmation. Yeah.
I have some questions for you. First of all,
Yeah.
is that new paramedic on your Christmas card list?
I tried to. I tried to. So after this all happened, the medical company, they wouldn't give me his name. I did have his
Oh.
first initial because that was on the paperwork and his last name. So knowing his first initial and last name, I went to the medical company or the medical transport company. They wouldn't give me his info. I went on site. I knew the location that billed the ambulance ride to me. And so I went to that location and on site, and they were able to actually say, oh yeah, that's so and so. They brought me over to him. He was busy. He didn't want to give me any time, but I asked him, can I take you to lunch sometime? And he's like, yeah, tomorrow. So we went to lunch the next day. We went and got a sandwich. He wouldn't even let me buy him a sandwich. He wanted to go Dutch where we bought our own sandwiches. I was sitting there eating the sandwich with this guy and he wouldn't look at me. I could feel the force of him knowing what he did. And he wouldn't even take any thank you for it. He wouldn't. It was like he himself was a divine angel. And
Yeah.
even though he is a man, there's a lot of
Mhm.
those divine angels out there, and a lot of
Yeah.
them are first responders. A lot of them. He got in so much trouble for doing what he did. He almost got fired. He was put on probation because he did break protocol. He opened a body bag and started working on a dead body, and that's not allowed. He got in a lot of trouble, but he felt that trouble was happening for a reason because he was supposed to be a fireman. And
Oh.
and and wouldn't you know it, one day before he was put on probation, he had passed his fire test. And that's one of the
Mhm.
hardest things to do, I guess, is the physical test for the to be a fireman. He passed it, so he did become a fireman. And he was able to, laterally transfer and not bring any of the trouble that he had caused.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. Even the insurance company that I was covered under, they refused to cover the whole thing because they said I was dead, and then I was like that. Like somehow all of these rules were broken, so that they weren't going to cover it now. So it's just so funny how all of this played out, and how God has a really good sense of humor. I'll tell you that, because even the guy I felt was my savior, I needed to realize was not my real savior. My real savior was the message being delivered to him and how it was
Mhm.
delivered to him. And it was the amount of love it took for that message to get delivered repeatedly. And if you actually read my story in my book, I get very clear about what happened from my perspective. That he heard the message, "This one's not dead," twice before he did something about it. And I asked him about that. I had my perspective of what happened, and I was like, "You were glowing. I could see you were glowing, like light was coming from you." And he just shook his head. He's like, "I don't know about that. I just knew you weren't dead." And
Vinny, you had
it's really
talked
interesting.
about
Yeah.
when when you were with Drake that becoming authentic is
Hmm.
one of our most important journeys.
Yep.
To me, that paramedic was authentic. In other words,
Yes.
he listened, even
Yep.
though all the rules and regulations around him, and probably the other more experienced workers in that vehicle were saying no, he followed what he believed to be true. And I think that that's so powerful.
He did. Yeah, he followed, and he followed what he felt was right, not what
Yeah.
he knew was right. Right. And there's a
Mhm.
difference. And I think that if all of us could take a little bit of that energy out of his example, and that sometimes it is going to be to break protocol to do the right thing. Sometimes it is going to be to, step outside our norm and be kind to a stranger, someone who maybe doesn't even deserve any kindness, still be kind to them. We can
Yeah.
see absolute miracles happen around us every single day if we live that way. Yeah.
Mhm. So you've had this profound experience that probably shook your belief system on so many different levels.
Yeah, so many levels.
How has your life changed, or how has it changed you in how you are on the planet right now, and how you deal with people, and how you perceive what's going on around you?
Well, so many people ask me, they're like, after your experience, how do you stay religious? And to me, religion is just that. It's a path of trying to connect to your creator. So, I don't feel that there's any one religion that is for everybody. I don't. But I feel that whether it's through religion or spirituality, every single one of us needs that connection to our creator.
Yeah.
And it's vitally important that we find a path, find a way that you feel that connection. If you don't find it being spiritual, then find it through religion. Me personally, I am a spiritualist. I do believe that having a daily connection, a daily regimen to spirit, to what I consider my heavenly Father or my Creator, and having that is paramount. It's more important than my religion. It's more important than even my family. That is the paramount relationship. And if you can get good with God, you can get good with everyone else, including your family, your immediate family, extended family, coworkers, your business, whatever you need to do. But it's vitally important that you get aligned in what I call the first kingdom, or what my good friend and brother Rick Evans calls the first kingdom, and that is the wall of you and God. Get good in this space, and then you can be there to support and stand up and be the love that needs to be there for those who you love. But if you can't get good there, you can't be good anywhere. And
Mhm.
if, unfortunately, most of us go to our first kingdom and we bring technology, we bring entertainment into the first kingdom, and that's the wrong place to bring it.
Yeah.
Then that hijacks and it manipulates you, and that's where you can't have that intuition, you can't have that spiritual connection. So yeah, that's what I do for my life now, is I help people with that. I help people strengthen their own connection with the divine, whatever that looks like.
Have you noticed that your intuitive skills, just your broader sense skills are more acute now?
They are, and it's funny, they were just turned on like wildfire after the experience. I toned them down myself.
You did.
I did. I had to. Um, there's a point where you feel like you're crazy because you're seeing a whole universe that no one else sees, and you're seeing, loved ones and ancestors and spirits everywhere. And at the same time, when you see someone saying they're going to do something, you know what they're really going to do. Like there's this whole level of connection to the quantum realm where you're seeing truth everywhere I went,
Mhm.
and that's too much. It is too much. So I had to reel it back and tone it back, and I've since kind of leaned back in to increase it little bit by little bit for myself, just so that I can help others. Not for myself, not for my own personal whatever. It's just 100% so I can be a better coach to others, be a better teacher to others on how they can connect to their own divinity. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was on a little crazy in the beginning. I had definitely had to tone it down.
Yeah, I would imagine integrating all that additional information is a challenge.
Oh, super challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I have another question for you. Have you seen Drake since?
Absolutely. I see him almost every day.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so glad to hear. Tell
I
us
don't
about that.
I don't see him in the physical form like I did there, but I feel him, I sense him, I talk to him constantly. I've gotten to a point where I know when he's talking to me, and I say talk, but we don't talk. We communicate. So when he communicates to me, when I get a message from him, I know it's him. He is like my number one helper. He helps me do what I do for helping others. I also work with Archangel Michael very, very closely, and between those two, I'm with them almost daily.
Yeah.
Yeah, with what I do every day, I work with both of them daily. Yeah.
Yeah. What a difference your life is today.
Oh, so different. And I wish I could say I did a lot better with what I was given, but I'm still doing my best, like, day by day
Mhm.
to honor what I received through the experience. And
Mhm.
it's actually hard because I had to step out of the camp of faith and step into the camp of knowledge. And that's a scary place to be. To do the right thing because you know it's the right thing, not because you think it's the right thing. Because here's the
Mhm.
thing, ignorance is bliss. And to be living by faith, you can claim, well, I didn't know God. I didn't know. You can't expect that of me. I didn't fully know. I can't say that myself. I can
Mhm.
say I know what the right decisions are on almost everything in my life. And when I choose to not choose the right, I know that I'm not, and that's a weird place to be and a rough place to be. So you do kind of have a hard time with that sometimes, and that's where I struggle is making sure that I'm honoring what I'm supposed to be doing in everything, and that includes what I eat, what I drink, what I consume energetically through media, through entertainment, through anything digitally. It's so vitally important that we are cognizant and aware of the different energies that we consume in all the different ways. Yeah,
That's so beautifully said, and I couldn't agree more. Becoming more conscious as a civilization is so important for us to
it
really
is.
start paying attention to what we're doing with our energy.
Yep. Yeah. And
Mhm.
energy is can't be created and it can't be
Can't be
destroyed.
destroyed.
It can only be converted from form to form to form.
Yeah.
And we think that, hey, I'm pretty good. I'm not going up or down. No, you're going up or down. There's no coasting. There's no coasting.
Yeah.
And you might be simultaneously going up in one way and simultaneously going down in another way. Either way, you that's just a coast, and there is no such thing as just coasting. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Gosh, what a wonderful story. So how can we learn more about you? How can we connect with you?
So I have a nonprofit that I work through. It's my nonprofit called Living God's Light. I teach people. I work with people. We hold events. We're looking at holding worldwide events eventually and spreading to having healing centers all over the world. We have a mission to uh, to build energetic and physical healing centers, and that's what we're going to eventually be doing. We haven't built one yet, but we've held some mini ones by holding retreats. And
Mhm.
every single retreat that we've held, the people have come away completely different in a beautiful way, in an actualized way where they've connected to the creator, connected to the divinity within them, and activated that in a way that they didn't know was possible. So that's our goal, and that's our organization. So livinggodslight.com is our organization. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. We'll have all your information listed in the description box down below so it's easy for people to find.
Thank
I just
you.
want to say thank you so much. And from the bottom of my heart, you are doing God's work right now. So thank you for sharing it. And thank you for having the courage to get up every day and to walk a walk that's probably not what you thought you signed up for, but you
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah, there's a side of me that says, you really signed up for this? And then there's another side like, yep, you did. So yeah,
Yeah, you
I
did.
appreciate that. And Kimberly, thank you for being you, because
Uh,
it's angels like you getting out there and spreading the good message. And here's the thing, my experience is not for everybody. If my experience doesn't resonate, swipe up or move on. But if it does
mhm.
resonate, hey, awesome. I'm so glad that it resonated, because it is it is a force. Like what I was given in my experience was not for me. It was for others as well. And not for everybody, but it was for others as well. And I'm grateful to people like yourself, Kimberly, that can help spread that and help others connect to their own authentic selves.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you for your time and for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Coming up next, this is a good one, or you might really like this one too. Either one of them could be perfect for you. Before you leave, don't forget to subscribe.